ACDC's Girls Got Rhythm. It's a bit of an easier song for you today. There's really only one main riff that we really have to nail. As you'll see, the riff that you hear in the intro also plays for the verses as well as the chorus and plays underneath the solo as well. So once you've got this main riff, that's basically the song. There's just a couple of other things that we have to add in there, plus the solo, of course. So we've got two guitar parts here, obviously, Malcolm and Angus. Angus's part is the one that you hear when the track first starts. So let's start with Angus's part, and then we'll cover what Malcolm's playing underneath that later. So Angus starts by barring the 7th frets on the D and the G, and then coming down to the barred 5th frets on the D and the G, okay? And we're just outlining D and C power chords, except doing away with the root. Okay, so we start with those 2 double stops, and then we shift to the 7th position and we hammer from 7 to 9 on the A string, come up to the D string and hit 7 twice. The second time we're gonna slide in. So you pick 7, and the second time, slide into it again. Palm mute A, come back down to those barred 5th frets on the D and the G. 7 on D, and 1 more palm muted A. Okay, so nice and slow, that whole part is gonna be like this. Okay, we play that 3 times. The 4th time, we start off all the same. Okay, but we just cut it short, and then there's a little pause while the vocals come in. So we finish this off just by going 7 to 9 hammer on the A string, 2 picks on that 7th fret on D, come back down to the 9th fret on A, and back to the 7th fret on D, okay? And on the album, I don't hear a slide that very last time, like I don't hear, but it could be there. I mean, it sounds good, but do whatever you want. If you think that sounds good, throw it in there. But if you want to be true to the album, I don't hear it there. So just a note there. Now, the other thing to mention is the first couple of times that this riff plays, that first double stop is quite short, right? And then after the first couple of times, they let it ring out a little bit for a whole beat. Right? So it's not quite, it's a lot more staccato the first couple of times. Okay, so that's Angus's part. Now Malcolm's underneath it, starts off the same with a D and C power chord, but he's fretting the full power chord. Now, when I see live footage, he's actually barring the D and the G with his pinky. He doesn't fret his power chord like that. He does the pinky. Okay? So feel free to experiment with that if that's easier for you. But we're just starting with those 2 power chords, the same as Angus did. And then we're moving down to an open E string. So we're gonna hit open E and hammer to the 2nd fret, F sharp. Now we're gonna hit an A power chord with 2 A palm mutes after that. Now we're going to go to the 3rd fret on that A string and bend it a little bit, just a quarter step, back to an A power chord with 1 more palm mute after that. So it's like this. Okay, and then that repeats around and around. So Malcolm's riff looks like this. Now in the last repetition of the intro, right, he finishes it like that, just mirroring what Angus did up here. Right, okay, so that his last repetition, we're again going to hammer from 0 to 2, and then 2 A power chords, back to that 2nd fret on the low string, and back to A power chord. Okay, so Malcolm's final repetition would look like this. Then after that plays, we're into the verse. The verse is just that riff. Both guitars play that exactly the same 8 times, I believe it is, for a total of 16 measures. And then we get into the pre-chorus riff. The pre-chorus riff has a couple of slight differences in it. And so I'll give that a quick performance with the 2 guitar parts put together, and then we'll break that down. So because we started with Angus's part first, with the first part, let's start with Angus's part again for the pre-chorus. Angus starts with just a basic D chord, and we strum that twice. Okay, and then we're going to do an open D palm mute as we go to a G chord. Okay, now on the album, only the top 4 strings of the G is strummed, but I've noticed live now he started doing the full G chord, but yeah, on the album, it's only the top 4 strings. So take your pick, whichever you want to do there. Okay, and that's all that we have different. And then it just goes back to his main riff that he's been playing. And then back to this. Okay, so we play that 3 times, and then the last 2 measures of the pre-chorus is a B and an E. So the B is on the 2nd fret of the A string, and then you can put your pinky into the 4th fret to get the D and the G, and even the B string. If that rings, that's okay. And we'll do this rhythm on these 2 chords. 1 and 2 and 3, 4 and 1 and 2 and 3, 4 and. Okay? Okay, and even live, they've got that rhythm fairly consistent from the live footage that I've heard. So it was a composed rhythm, so it's kind of important to have that rhythm down. Okay, so I'll play this whole pre-chorus part nice and slow for you and see if you can really pick up on that rhythm for those last 2 measures and nail that. Okay, so there's Angus's part for the pre-chorus, and now Malcolm, he's pretty much doing the same thing. He starts with the same chords, the D and the G, right? And again, you can take your choice if you want to do that full G or not. On the album, though, I don't hear it. It's just those top 4 strings, but you could, you know, if you think that sounds better, huger, use that, just like they do live now. And then he just uses his main riff to finish it off. So you do that. And then just go into and repeat that, right? And play that 3 times. And then again, just go to a B and an E, except this time for our E, Malcolm uses a full E chord, all 6 strings, but it's the exact same rhythm. They do duplicate that. Okay, so as you noticed, or you might have noticed, I just hit an open E for that transition. So you can go from the B, you don't have to hop right to that E, you could just hit the open E to make that transition. Okay, that's fine. But we've still got that same rhythm, right? That 1 and 2, 3, 4 and 1 and 2 and 3, 4 and. Okay. So there's the pre-chorus, and that's basically it. The chorus just goes back to the main riff, and then for everything else, it's just that main riff underneath the first little interlude lead break between the first chorus and the second verse is the main riff, and then underneath the main solo is just the main riff. And then the whole outro bit is just the main riff, more of the same old. So we've got all the rhythm parts to that song. Now let's just talk about the first little lead break. After the first chorus, there's a very simple little Chuck Berry type thing, and it just goes like this. Okay, so like I said, very Chuck Berry-esque, pretty simple to pull off, just a very basic pentatonic lick. We're gonna bend the 7th fret on the G string, and then bar the 5th frets on the B and the E string, and hit those twice. Okay, so bend the 7th fret, those 5th frets twice, bend the 7th fret again, and then hit those 5th frets again. And then he hits them one more time and slides. And then we just do more of the same old for the second half of that. And it's just bend the 7th fret, 2 hits on those 5th frets, and then one more 7th fret, and cut those 5th frets short. Okay, so now that you know what's going on, super quick and easy, here it is nice and slow. Okay, and then the only other thing that we have to talk about is the main lead solo. It's a bit of a longer one here, so I'll give it a quick performance playthrough and then we'll break it down. Hope you're learning everything you want to know about Girls Got Rhythm by ACDC. Remember that this channel is all about helping you get to where you want to be on the guitar and unlocking your creativity, all while learning some pretty awesome songs and cool stuff along the way. Remember that all of my song tutorials come with full tab to every section. I cover virtually every note from every song that I do. So if that sounds good to you, remember to like and subscribe so you don't miss a song, and let's get back to her. Okay, a really cool solo full of some awesome blues licks, and it will even give your hybrid picking a little workout if you choose to play it like that, but I'll point this all out as we go. We're starting at the 5th position, pinky on the 8th fret of the high string, and 3rd finger on the 7th fret of the B string. Okay, so we have this dyad. Now what we want to do is hold that pinky steady as we bend the B string and release it. So just a little half step bend. Come to the 5th fret's barred at the 2 high strings, and then roll that finger down to get the 5th fret on the G string. Now we go back to that Chuck Berry type lick that we had after the first chorus, that first little lead break. Okay, so we're just bending the 7th fret on G and then double stop barring those 5th frets on the high strings. Okay, and then at the end there we just bend the 7th fret one more time to the 5th fret of the G string. And now we repeat this double stop bend here that we had, that we started the solo with. And again, coming to that 5th fret on the G string. Now, okay, so what we do is we take the 7th fret of the G string and we want to bend it and release really fast. So it's a bend, release, and then slow bend. Okay, so slow, it would look like this. So you want to get a bend, release it really fast, and then slow bend again. And then come to the 5th fret of the G string. Now 2 hits on the 7th fret of the D string. Then quick 5th fret on the G string, and back to that 7th fret of the D string. So our first phrase goes like this. Okay, now we get into that Chuck Berry thing again. Right, just bending the 7th fret on the G string, double stop on those 5th frets on the 2 high strings. And again, we're going to take that 7th fret on the G string, bend release really fast with a slow nudge up. Okay, now this time, after that, we go 5 on G, down to the D string 7, and now roll your finger up to the G string 7, and back to the 5th fret on the G string. Okay, now, okay, we finish with that lick, and so he starts with some double stops here, where we're barring the 7th frets on the G and the B, and coming to the 5th frets on the G and the B. Okay, and when he comes to these 5th frets, he nudges them a little bit, you know, a little bit out of tune, makes it bluesy there. And then we come down to the 7th fret on the D string. So it's kind of a cool lick because we only have 3 notes. It's a rhythmic pattern of 3, so every time it repeats, it's at a different place in the beat or in the measure. Okay, so we do that twice, barring the 7th and the 5ths, and down to the D string 7. Do it again. Now, after he's played that twice, on the album, he just starts doing single notes. You could just keep playing the double stop thing the whole way through and it would sound good. But if you want to do it exactly what he did on the album, you want to, after the first 2 times, then you'll just play the 7th and the 5th fret on the B string and do that twice. And then the last time, you go 7 on the B string and then 5 on the G string. And then we are going to resolve it to the 7th fret on the D string at the very end. But that whole lick looks like this. Okay. Now, like I said, you could play double stops the whole way through if you weren't too exacting about wanting to sound exactly like the album. You could. Right? Like that sounds fine, just playing double stops the whole way through. There is a quick A there on the 7th fret of the D string, right before we hop up to the 14th position. So you might have to practice that hop just to keep it clean and smooth. Now what we want to do is bend the 16th fret on the G string. And now we bar the 17th frets on the 2 high strings with our pinky, okay? And this is where hybrid picking comes in. I use my middle finger and my ring finger to pluck the 2 high strings. So I bend the G string and then pluck those 2 high strings. And just do that twice. Okay, now you don't have to hybrid pick that if you choose not to. Like you could just pick that, right? But to me, it sounds more authentic, more like the album and more like that country twang when you're hybrid picking those. Okay, so after you do that twice, now we just bend the 16th fret again. And now, so we bend the 16th fret. Now we want to bounce back and forth between the B string and the G string. You go B, G, B, and you use your middle finger. So middle finger, pick, middle finger. Okay? Now we come back to the G string, pick that twice, and then release it the second time down to 14. Okay? So it's like this, the whole thing. Now we go 16 on D, then 14 and 16 on G. And now we do some more oblique bends here where we're holding 17 on B and 16 on G. Okay, and again, I hybrid pick. I hybrid pick the G string, middle finger, and use my pick to pluck the G string. And we're gonna do this 4 times where we bend and release the G string. Okay, so we do that 4 times, and that 4th time, we don't release, we just bend it up. And now we go 16, 14, pull off on G, and end it on the 16th fret of D. And play the 14th fret on G, and that, now we're gonna hop up and do some more of this country style pedal steel type stuff up at the 19th and 20th frets on the G and the B. Okay, so that whole little phrase that we have in 14th position goes like this. Now again, fret 20 on the B string with your pinky and 19 with your 3rd finger on the G string. And again, I hybrid pick. So the B string, I'm using my middle finger and picking, using the pick on the G string. Okay, so pick those 2 notes, bend the G string, and then do 2 picks on those. I pick the G and the B again twice more. And again, exact same, right? Just the same thing twice. And now the next time, I just bend 19 on the G string, and then pluck the B string with my middle finger. And now we get into this repeating pattern here where we're gonna bend the 19th fret, and then we're going middle finger, pick, middle finger. And we're just getting that pattern repeating until the end of the solo, right? And the very last thing you want to do is you're just going to slide those down. So you're going to do the little pattern 7 times in total where you go, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and you're done. Okay, so that's the whole solo, and let's just play the whole thing really nice and slow since it's not that long. Here we go. And there is every single note to Girls Got Rhythm by ACDC. Hope you learned a lot. I'm going to have more AC/DC coming. Drop any suggestions of songs that you want to see in the comments, and I'm going to see you next time.